Hey, YouTubers, welcome back to the Evil Bad Book Club. And this is the breakdown. We're breaking down chapter 22 of the Turner Diaries. So, in this chapter, Turner, our main character, is dealing with the relocating of all the non-whites out of the West Coast area or the greater LA basin or the IE, the Inland Empire. Um, and anybody that is semi-healthy, they're making walk out, and anybody that's not healthy enough to walk, they're trying to find some form of transportation for them, and they're basically giving them like a quarter tank of gas and sending them down the road. They're just packing cars and trucks and sending people out. And uh, and I've lived in that area, before, only for a couple years, but to have to walk out of there, through the desert and going through the passes and stuff, man, that'd be a mother. Um, so, so they've got literally millions of people walking out of uh, Los Angeles and through the desert to get out of there. And if they're not able to walk out, they're putting them on trucks and loading up cars to the gills, literally having people sit on fenders and roofs and everything else. So just the thought of that alone is crazy and to think of. But the other thing that it made me think about was how we have immigrants coming here, and in Europe when they had the flow of all the Muslims coming into Europe, how it was used as a kind of warfare, or at least in the book they're talking about it being used as a kind of warfare. So you've got the organization, all the whites in the organization are sending all the non-whites out, and they're just flooding into the border cities because there's a new border, because of this revolution. And so all these non-whites that are from the city are going into these other towns, and it's basically a kind of warfare. And it's amazing to look at that. A book that was written in the late 70s. You know how that was an idea from this white supremacist guy, and now you see that happening now, um, in a similar fashion happening in our country at our southern border and in Europe. The Europeans have been dealing with this for a while, and it's spun all kinds of different ways. In Europe, they were telling everybody, to stop having babies, so that you could have a better life. But then they're saying that they need to bring in these immigrants because the population isn't keeping up. So you've got to have new taxpayers coming into the system, otherwise the system dies. So it's pretty interesting to see how you know this this guy thought of this, in the 70s and in his book, and then but you see it now, and it's used as a form of warfare now. It's really interesting. So in the book, they're trying to resettle the communities. The black and Chicano communities are being repopulated with white immigrants that are coming to this area in California now because uh, apparently they want to join that part of the revolution. So you've got everybody being forced out of California or the West Coast that are non-white, and then you've got a few whites coming in. Not nearly as many as the non-whites leaving. It's just kind of interesting, and you're already getting in the book. They're talking about how they're reclaiming, certain areas and trying to beautify it up and things like that. They're going into areas that were severely impoverished and cleaning them up. Of course, there's fewer of them, and it's just crazy. And then in the book also it touched on the lack of Latinos there to work in the fruit orchards, and so they're basically recruiting, excuse me, teenagers, kids 12 to 15 years old to do that work, basically giving them food for their labor. And so just kind of interesting, kind of goes back to the Great Depression era. A lot of stuff was going on like that back then, where you had so many kids in the family and you'd send them out to work, because they had to help provide, because you just couldn't support them. And there's a lack of food in this area in the book because of this big revolution. So food production is a major concern. So if the system breaks down, that would definitely be, two of the hugest things to be concerned about would be immigration, or people that are not migrants, but crap, I'm having a brain fart. People that are forced to leave. They've all been forced to bug out. So you've got a migration of people one way and a migration of people another way. And you see that in any huge takeover, like in Vietnam, it happened. In Cambodia, it happened. I'm sure it happened in Russia, and of course, it happened at the end of World War II in Europe. So just some things to think about if there ever was a situation here in the States where we were invaded or something. There's going to be strongholds. There will be places that probably won't be taken over, and there may be places that are taken over, and so you're going to have people that are going to be loyal one way or the other. Or if you get a divide amongst the vaxxed versus the unvaxxed, you may see a divide there. If there is ever a revolution or a civil war, you could see the same things happening again. And just some interesting things to think about. How would you react? If you were told you had to leave, you could only what you can carry, and you got to go. How would you handle that? Where would you go? If you had to leave your state right now and you didn't have a choice, where would you go? Something to think about. Anyway, I'll check you YouTubers out tomorrow, and have a great night.